Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fundira. I'll be your instructor for this course, where we'll be looking at an introduction to arithmetic operators in C#. So this will be a beginner's guide to programming in C#, especially looking at arithmetic operators. Soon I'll then share with you what the operators are and the examples that we'll do. But before that, I think it's important for me to give you a little bit recap of who I am and why we're gathered here today. I've been in the industry as a trainer since the year 2014, which makes almost 10 years of training experience. And most of my experience comes from training such object-oriented programming languages as C#, Python, and Java. I also have other knowledge areas such as your cybersecurity and data analytics. So today, our main focus will be on C# and mainly on the arithmetic operators. So before I continue, I think it will make more sense also if I have a better understanding of your expectations from this course and your level of knowledge in as far as programming is concerned, and then I can contextually give you examples that will make you better understand the subject matter. I'll begin with Dinah.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Dinah Skosana. Okay, for this lesson, I'm expecting at the end to know how these operators work in the arithmetic, and then know how the C#. How do we do the C#? Because I've been heard people talking about the C#, but yeah, I want to know more about what this C# is.
I have
zero knowledge.
You have zero knowledge of programming. Great. I was actually about to ask that. Not a problem. I will make sure that my examples are as simple as possible and straight to the point, so that even if you have zero knowledge of programming, you can know where to go from here. Let me go over to Edith.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edith Mashapo. My expectation from this class is that I need to learn and understand the basic knowledge of C#. I have a zero knowledge on C#. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you, Edith, for that information. I will make sure that my examples and my explanations suit that. Let me go to Moloko.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Moloko and the surname is Hata. I would like to think that I have little to no knowledge on C#, but I'm hoping more after this course, I'll be able to make this arithmetic, I'll be confident with arithmetic operations on C# and then get to know more than the basics of the language, I think.
Thank you so much, Moloko. I'll also look at that in that regard. Let me go to Funanani.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rapuru Funanani. I have no experience in C#. My expectation from this class is to know how to transform mathematical operators into a C# aspect, and also to know the basic knowledge of C#. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Funanani. I'll take regard to that. And my last person will be Malebo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Malebo Tuwejani. I have zero experience in C#. My expectations are that I would know more about the language, how it works, and how to run the programs. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Malebo. Let's get into it. I think what I understood from all of you is that you're all beginners in C#, and I'll make sure that my examples are in that particular regard. So let me quickly get you into the operators that we'll be using. Now, when you think about programming in C# in this particular point, and in programming in any aspect, we're trying to solve real-world situations. We're trying to solve real-world problems. And half the time when we're talking about arithmetic in the real world, we're talking about your addition, your subtraction, your multiplication, and your division. But the question then becomes, in as much as we know how to multiply, we know how to add, we know how to subtract and to divide in the real world, how then will we be able to change that into the C# aspect and be able to have C# being able to take it further from there? Now we are able to create robust programs or robust applications in C# that can then solve those real world situations for us. Instead of us having to manually work out the digits, we can then have our computers do that. So the problem is there, that we will have complex mathematical situations in the world that we need to sort out. The solution is there, which is C# as a programming language, which can make us be able to make very good applications which can solve that problem. The issue then becomes, how then do we go on and do that? All right, so you'll see that we have the popular arithmetic operators that we use, just like on the screen, you see that we first off with addition. And with addition, just on your keyboard, the plus sign on your keyboard is the one that we then use for addition in C# and indeed in many other different programming languages. So you see here, when we put an example, we then say int result equals to 10 plus 5. Now, there are many things that we can have to dissect from this particular statement, and some of them are not part of this lesson, but I'll just give you a brief overview. When we say int, we're trying to tell C# that this particular result that we're looking for is of the type integer. So it's an integer value, so it doesn't contain any decimals. And also, when we say equals here, we're trying to say this particular result here, which is in the programming language called C#, is then called a variable. So it's actually a variable of integer type that will receive the value 10 plus the value 5. Now, variables are literally containers that we then use in our C# programming language to contain the values that we want to deal with. In this case, we want to contain integer values. It is always best to explicitly explain to C# that you're about to deal with integers. If you want to deal with decimals, you also have to explicitly explain to that, which we'll look into when we're now looking at variables in more detail. The most important aspect of this particular line of code here is literally the fact that we have 10 plus 5, and the result would then be 15. These two slashes are what we call comments. In C#, they will be ignored at execution of the program. You only have the results of the lines of code that are not preceded by the two slashes. So you always put these comments to guide you into understanding your code, and especially if you're working as a team, for other team members to understand what you're trying to achieve. We also have the subtraction operator, which is the minus operator. And again, just like on your keyboard, that's the same one that we use. And again, here we have int result, int for integer, result for the variable, and we have 20 minus 8, and then we get the result to be 12 on the screen. We'll soon look at the examples in how to literally do that in C#, but for now, I just want you to have an understanding that there's no much things that are different from the way you do them in the real world to the way that you do it as we are programming in C#. Then for the multiplication, this is where we have a little bit of a special case where we now use the asterisk, which is the star. The symbol is then used for multiplication in C#. We are used to using the X normally in our mathematical equations like at high school, but in this particular case, we have to use the asterisk. Then for division, we then use the slash, the forward slash, just like in the real world. And you should also note that, of course, we'll discuss this further. When you're doing integer by integer division, you only get an integer answer. You won't get the fractional part of it. But we'll discuss this further in other lessons. At this point, we just want to look at the operators themselves. Then the last operator that we have is called the modulus operator. Its main job is just, its only job literally is to give us what is the remainder when the left operand is divided by the right operand. So what is the remainder in this example of 15 divided by 4? And we'll get the answer as being 3. So this is a brief introduction to the operators in C#. Does anyone have a question at this particular point? Because now we're about to move into programming in C# itself.
Yes, when we say, when we use the modulus, you say it gives us the remainder, right?
Yes.
So what will happen now if we divide a smaller number with a bigger number?
Okay, so remember when you are working out the remainder of any division, we actually say how many times is that number getting into the other number and what is then remaining behind. So you are actually saying instead of us having as 15 modulus 4, you are saying we should have 4 modulus 15. Is that your question?
Yes, what will then be the answer to that?
Wonderful. So now when you think about it, how many times would 15 get into 4? You realize that 15, since it's greater than 4, it will only get into 4 0 times. Then the remainder of the times that it gets into 4 will actually be 4 itself. So in this case, the answer that you'll get will then be 4.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Moloko, for that question. Let us now move on to programming in C# itself. Prior to this lesson, I already set you up to have what is called Visual Studio on your computers. And I also told you to be at this stage so that now we can just continue and press next. Visual Studio is called an integrated development environment, which is what we'll be using for us to build our applications. Integrated development environments are used to build applications as they come with many characteristics of application building that makes it easier and facilitates our work instead of us having to write the applications, for example, in a simple word processor like your Notepad. So let's go ahead and use Visual Studio 2022. So we'll name our program operators. Operators, just like that. And as you can see, I have my location where everything will be saved here. I would like to change it, and you can change it according to what you want yourself. I'll just simply go and save this in my documents. I'll then save it in a folder called C# demo. On selecting this folder, I'm able to save there. You are free to save it any particular folder that you want on your computer, as long as you can always be able to refer back to that particular project. If you have any problem doing this, please don't hesitate to ask. Now, this is what you'll be met with on after setting up your C# development in Visual Studio. And we'll ignore the rest of this code as it comes with the IDE, which is Visual Studio right now, as it just helps us to do what we need to do. We'll just concentrate on the examples that we need to put here. We might not be able to do all the examples that we just talked about, but as long as at least we are able to demonstrate one way of doing things, I am sure that you'll be able to do the rest. As I told you in C#, you need to tell C# what you're about to do, what type of variables there are. Variables are then integer, the particular address spaces that will hold the values that you want. They can be of type integer, like in the case of our examples, or they could be strings, which are literally names, like your names and any bunch of characters, or they could be of Boolean types, which is true or false. But for this particular case, let's just use integers for simplicity. To declare an integer, you then go ahead, simply write int. On doing so, you'll see on the screen that it's already trying to guide me towards what I'm supposed to do. When I press tab, it will accept that as exactly what I want to do. Now I can be able to continue writing what I want to do. Remember, we said we'll name our variable result. On introducing my integer code result, I can also be able to give it a value. In this case, we want to experiment with addition. So I'll actually give it a value which will have addition involved. I'll have 10. And then to explain, to actually be able to do addition, I'll press plus. Then I'll also put 5. Now I'm able to now know that for sure my result, sorry, I forgot the assignment operator here, which is the equal sign. So now I know my result will be storing the value of 10 plus 5. In C#, you are also supposed to end every line with a semicolon. So once I put a semicolon, my IDE will automatically indent everything to the right like that so that it's neat and easy to follow. Once I'm done with this, I still have other things that I need to do. I need to be able to tell my C# application that I need this written onto the screen. And to do so, I use the command that I'm already being auto-corrected to use by our program, which is console.writeLine_result. If I accept what I'm being told to do that, I can just press tab. On pressing tab, that command is now on the screen, which facilitates my work as I do not have to write this myself. I also need to put another command here just to make sure that my console, which is literally a little dialog box that will appear after this, does not vanish before I see what I'm supposed to see. To do so, I'll literally say console. Instead of console, write line this time, I'll say read line. This will make my dialog box wait until the user puts in some input before it can make that dialog box disappear. So I can go ahead and even put some comments here and say addition of integers, just for me to remember what I was trying to achieve. And then I can also comment here and say results printed on screen. And I can also go here and comment that this line is to freeze the console so results can be seen. Just like that. Just like that, we have our first program in C#. I'll give you a moment to actually go ahead and try this out as I also run it on the screen, and you'll see that if you go ahead and write it like this, you'll be able to achieve addition in C#. On running this program, a little dialog box will come, which is what we literally call the console. This, you might be reminded of this from the command line interface for Windows. It's literally almost the same thing. So now you see my command line is also waiting, my console is waiting for me to put some input. That's why you see that blinking line over there. Once I press enter, it will disappear, but the result that we wanted on the screen was 15, and indeed, 15 is really the result of 10 plus 5. With that, we understand that indeed the plus operator can be used on our operands in C# and give us the result we need. I'll give you a moment to do your own coding, and then you can give me feedback. Throughout your coding, please do not forget to press Ctrl+S to save your program. That way, even if something happens, like you lose power or your computer crashes, you do not lose your work.
I'm done with this edition one, so it just shows 15 there at the
As
top,
the
and
result.
then how do we now then try to make it, or how do we understand, or where did that 15 came from without having to come back to the code?
Okay. As we continue building more robust applications, Moloko, we'll be able now to actually even make the user themselves be the ones to put in the values. At this particular point, since this is an introduction introduction lesson, we just have to understand that we are able to add numbers in C#, and we achieved that by adding 10 plus 5. And we actually did what is called hard coding those particular numbers into our C#, and we're able to do so. All right, I hope I answered your question. Thank you. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted by our meeting asking me to extend the time. All right, at this particular point, ladies and gentlemen, we've been able to talk about operators in C#. We've been able to actually code them, code one of them as an example in C#, which was the plus operator. And the other operators will also continue to code them in. And if you have any questions, there are my contact details, and we'll then be able to discuss that on our next lesson and also look further onto other topics that we have to look at as far as C# is concerned. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you learned how to use the operators in C#, and especially the plus operator. You're now able to use it in C#. With the same type of logic, please continue with the other operators, and you'll see that you won't face any problems. In case you face any problems, these are my contact details. You can always contact me, and I'll also see you in the next lesson where we'll discuss further on other capabilities of C#. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next lesson.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. It was insightful and informative. Looking forward to the next session.
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you
We
too.
learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Right,
you
I'll
very
end.
much. Yeah.
Thank you to Edith.
Thank you.
Thank you to Funanani. I'll end the meeting now. Bye-bye.